Good afternoon, guys. Today's video is going to be the November garden tour. Now, harvests are starting to slow down. There's not as much plants in the ground, but there's still plenty to do in the garden. So I'm going to sort of give you a tour, show you what I'm sort of working on, and yeah, talk a little bit about sort of the next growing season and sort of how we're going to cope through winter. So I couldn't start the November tour without being next to my blueberry bush. So if you've watched the garden tours, you know I'm a big fan of blueberry bushes. You've got the beautiful springtime flowers. You've got the sort of then the lovely foliage that comes in. You've then got the autumn, sort of late summer berries, and then finally it all ends with this beautiful sort of red foliage. So there's not much to do with the blueberry bush, pretty low maintenance plant. But what I am going to do is once all the leaves are off, I'm going to sort of pick up the sort of pine needle sort of mulch that's here, put down some more ericaceous compost so it's got some sort of more nutrients in this sort of raised planter, put the mulch back on, and then probably the only thing left to do is I might take some hardwood cuttings and try and propagate my own blueberry bushes. And I'll make a video on that when I get round to it as well. But autumn is the best time if you've got these sort of soft fruit bushes to take your cuttings. Before we move on to vegetables, I thought I'd keep us on the sort of topic of fruits. I've got here my newly planted plum tree. Have made a whole video on planting fruit trees, so do check it out. If you want to sort of grow your own fruit trees, still plenty of time. Autumn is a brilliant time before the ground gets too hard to sort of plant new fruit trees. But yeah. So first vegetable bed is the sort of garlic bed, and doing a bit of an experiment here, and I'll get some close-ups, but you can see that the store-bought garlic, the garlic I bought, in bulbs for 39p, has absolute shot up. So what I didn't show in the garlic video that I made was that I didn't plant the store-bought garlic until about 2-3 weeks after I planted my sort of seed-bought garlic. So although they've got like they're behind by 3 weeks, they've absolutely shot up. And I guess maybe it's to do with the type of variety they are, or maybe they're treated with something that sort of accelerates growth. But I've had 100% germination, everything I've planted, which is, let me quickly count, 18 cloves, and they've all come up. Over here on this bed, and I have not got impatient, but I got a little bit worried about it. When I saw this stuff had all come up, I thought maybe something's gone wrong. And I shouldn't worry because I'm confident I know roughly what I'm doing. But I have, dug a small hole and I've checked on the elephant bulb garlic, and sure enough, it has started shooting. It is on its way up to the surface. So yeah, growing garlic. Do check out my video on growing garlic if you've got a spare quarter of an hour. So this was at one point in time my absolute favorite bed, and I'm going to try and get up an image on the screen showing what it looked like just a few months ago, and you can see the incredible difference. But having said that, I am really happy with this Brussels sprout plant. It's got some amazing Brussels sprouts on it. There is some evidence of damage, and I think it's snails or slugs eating it. And I'll get you some close-ups of that as I'm talking, but generally absolutely brilliant. And it's not been too much work, this. So one thing I have done, and that if you're growing Brussels sprouts, you need to do is you need to snap off the sort of lower leaves. That allows a bit of room for the sort of Brussels to grow, but also it stops pests having a place to sort of overwinter and hide, slugs, snails, etc. And because this isn't netted or anything, birds can hopefully get in here and get the snails and slugs. Over here in the corner, I have got some spinach that's sort of just left doing its thing. The spinach is still good, although it's sort of showing signs that back along when we had a sort of hot end to the summer, it sort of started to want to bolt, but it's still tasting great. I'm still taking pickings from it, and it's just a general good crop. I'm going to see how long it overwinters for. I'm not sure if it's going to be killed by frost, but we'll see. And then finally, I've got over here my broad beans, which I made a quick video on planting. Sorry, I think it was my last video, but I'm not sure if some pests have got to them before they've even germinated. So in this bed, there's not a lot left here, but I will put up some images of the sort of before and after, how it looked in the spring, and then how it looked sort of in the sort of late summer as well. But we have still got some potatoes in the ground. That's a variety called Maris Pierre. A few of them are poking up through the sort of soil. And if you see them going green like that, you do have to throw them away. That you can eat them. I think it is, they do become poisonous. I don't think it's fatal or anything, but they definitely give you an upset stomach. Other plants in here, I've got this beautiful ruby chard, which I'm not really eating a lot of it. I have decided I don't particularly like the sort of earthy taste of it, but I do love the beautiful red stems, and I'm happy to just leave them here. They are a very frost tolerant crop, and hopefully if I don't eat them, some birds will, and at least, you know, there's something there for everyone. Another kind of little failure here is this lamb's lettuce. So these make these little rosettes of leaves, and again, this is quite a frost tolerant species. It should last and last, but I'm not sure if it's tried going to seed or if I've not given it enough sunlight. It is quite a shady spot there, shaded by the sort of chard and the sort of wooden side of the bed, so unfortunately that's not done too well. Now finally in this bed I've got my row of parsnips, which really have flopped out, and I think a lot of that was the potatoes were secluding light, and there was some sort of Chinese cabbages in there as well. But yeah, I mean, if I dig down and show you, I can see there's one quite large one here, which yeah, looks really good. So I'm going to do a bit of handheld recording here, but I'll just quickly give you a quick tour of this bed because it's quite interesting. So here is Mizuna, and there is loads of Mizuna here, which is brilliant if you really like your sort of salads, and it gives that like sort of nice sort of bittery sort of taste, a bit like rocket sort of thing is how I'd sort of describe it. But yeah, really nice, really easy to grow, and it's loving these sort of damp conditions. Next to it, so as well as the sort of ruby chard, you've also got this Swiss chard, which I much prefer eating, I must say. And it's doing really well. Some really big leaves here, really glossy, lovely white stems. Yeah, doing really well. So then you've got sort of the brassicas, the kales, and the cabbages. So some of the cabbages aren't doing that well. So this is one. This is looking quite small. I sort of feel around it, barely anything there. It's definitely not made a head yet. Whereas if I go over here, yeah, this one here, much more sort of getting ready, starting to get relatively firm. And the brilliant thing is, with all of these cabbages, I was really worried about them because, as you can see on the sort of tunnel that I built, I've only got bird netting because that was my main concern at the time, pigeons. Whereas butterflies were able to get in, and everything got annihilated by caterpillars. But what I have sort of done now, if I look down at the stem, as you can see, I've sort of taken off all the sort of leaves, just quite roughly. I probably should have snapped them off at the base like that, but yeah, I've done that, and that has really sort of tidied them up, and hopefully will not only sort of reduce the habitat for slugs and snails, but also encourage the cabbages to sort of form their heads. And not much change here, but just the kale, yeah, dwarf curly kale, still doing really well. You can see all my sort of harvests I've been doing. Basically with this stuff, I'm just making crisps for me and the kids as a sort of healthy snack. But yeah, it's doing really well. It looks like it's almost ready for sort of another picking. So I didn't think there'd be much of a tour if I didn't harvest something, and there isn't really much to harvest at the minute. I could harvest Brussels sprouts, I could harvest parsnips, but I don't want to yet. I want them to get bigger, but I have got this crazy amount of what I'm hoping is going to be these small sort of baby carrots, perfect for sort of my kids' lunches and things like that here, which really easily pull out. There's absolutely zero signs of carrot root fly on these, and yeah, they're brilliant size. You know, my kids will absolutely love eating these, and yeah, so I thought I'd sort of show you these. Plus, you know, it gives me something to put in the thumbnail as well. Right, that concludes the November garden tour. I really hope you enjoy watching. As you can see, the garden's winding to a halt, but there are still some, you know, new crops such as the garlic and the broad beans going in that'll be sort of cropping next season. So yeah, I hope you like these sort of videos. If you do, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon for more garden videos.